Most military historians will tell you that the age of the meat grinder ended a century ago. They will tell you that the days of thousands of men running into machine gun fire, dying for a few inches of mud, were buried in the trenches of the Somme and Verdun. They will tell you that modern warfare is surgical, precise, fast. They are wrong. In 2023, the ghosts of World War I returned. They didn't appear in France, but in a small salt mining city in eastern Ukraine. A place that transformed from a home for 70,000 people into a synonym for hell on earth. Bakhmut. We are not looking at a battle today. We are looking at a crime scene of industrial proportions. We are dissecting a single, 24-hour cycle in a months-long siege where the casualty count rivaled the worst days of the 20th century. Intelligence agencies estimate that during the peak of this fighting, between 1,000 and 2,000 soldiers were killed or wounded every single day. This is the story of the deadliest day in the deadliest battle of modern Europe. This is the Bakhmut meat grinder. To understand the sheer insanity of this day, you first have to understand the stage. By early 2023, the war in Ukraine had shifted. The rapid maneuvers were gone. In their place sat a terrifying static front. The Russians, led by the private military company Wagner, needed a victory. They needed it politically, and they needed it symbolically. Bakhmut became the prize. For Ukraine, the city became a fortress. A calculated trap. The strategy was brutal but necessary: turn every basement into a bunker, every high-rise into a sniper's nest, and force the enemy to burn through their reserves of men and ammunition to take it. It was a strategy of trading space for time, and trading blood for the exhaustion of the enemy. The result was a landscape that looked less like a city and more like the surface of the moon. But unlike the moon, this cratered landscape was inhabited. Let's descend into the tactical nightmare. How do you generate 2,000 casualties in a day? You do it by turning human beings into ammunition. On one side, you had the Russian tactic, often described as human waves. But that term is too simple. It was more cynical than that. The first wave wasn't meant to succeed. Groups of poorly trained conscripts and penal battalion soldiers were sent forward across the open, muddy fields. They were the bait. Their only job was to draw fire. When the Ukrainians opened up with machine guns to stop them, they revealed their positions. And that is when the sky would fall. Once the Ukrainian positions were exposed, the Russian artillery, which at times outnumbered the defenders 10 to 1, would saturate that specific coordinate with high explosives. Only then, after the earth had been churned and the defenders stunned, would the elite Wagner assault troops move in for the kill. On the other side, the Ukrainian defense was what we call active urban warfare. They didn't just sit and wait. They created kill boxes. Using a network of commercial drones, they watched every movement. They knew exactly which street corner the enemy would cross. They pre-sighted their mortars and artillery to those specific meters. When the enemy stepped into the zone, the trap snapped shut. Now, imagine these two massive, lethal systems colliding. Not over a month, but condensed into a single 24-hour period. It begins at 5 o'clock in the morning. There is no sunrise yet, only the gray, freezing mist of the Donbass winter. The silence is broken not by a single shot, but by a continuous, rolling thunder. This is the morning barrage. Thousands of shells. Grad rockets screaming through the air, tearing up the earth on the city's outskirts. For the men in the trenches and the basements, the world is nothing but vibration and dust. The goal is psychological. To break the will before the bodies are broken. By 7:30, the mist is mixing with the smoke. Visibility is near zero. This is when the infantry moves. From the Russian lines, small squads detach and sprint toward the ruins. They move through the backyards of shattered residential homes. In the gray light, it is chaos. A Ukrainian machine gunner on a second floor spots movement. He fires. The tracers cut through the fog. The first wave falls. But they have done their job. The radio calls go out. Coordinates are passed. Minutes later, the building housing that machine gunner evaporates under a direct hit from a tank shell. By noon, the battle has shifted from the outskirts into the city blocks themselves. This is the most terrifying form of combat known to men. Close quarters battle. Room to room. Floor to floor. It is possible for Ukrainian soldiers to be holding the third floor of an apartment block while Russian forces act as a demolition team on the first floor, blowing out the support pillars to bring the whole structure down. The distances are intimate. You can hear the enemy shouting commands. You can hear them reloading. You can smell the unwashed bodies and the cordite. The casualties here are horrific. Fragmentation grenades in stairwells. Shovels and knives in cramped kitchens. The line of contact isn't a line anymore, it's a series of isolated, desperate islands of resistance. As the afternoon wears on, the focus shifts to the west. To the lifeline. There is only one paved road left for the defenders to resupply or evacuate their wounded. The soldiers call it the Road of Life. By 1600 hours, it becomes the Road of Death. The Russian artillery fire control has this strip of asphalt dialed in down to the millimeter. Picture a beat-up van, painted with a red cross, driving at 80 miles an hour over potholes, swerving around burning chassis of destroyed troop carriers. Mortar shells are landing 50 feet away, spraying shrapnel against the metal. Inside, medics are trying to hold a torn artery shut while the vehicle goes airborne. Every supply run is a gamble with the devil. Many do not make it. This is where the logistics of war turn into a tragedy of attrition. And then, the sun goes down. But the killing does not stop. At 2000 hours, the nature of the war changes spectrum. It goes thermal. In previous wars, night was a time for rest, or for covert movement. In Bakhmut, there is no darkness. The sky is filled with the buzzing of drones equipped with thermal cameras. To these machines, a human being is just a glowing white shape against a cold black background. Snipers with night vision rule the rooftops. If you pop your head up for a cigarette, you are dead. If you try to drag a wounded comrade across the street, you are dead. And then comes the incendiary rain. To flush out the defenders from their trenches, the sky lights up with the blinding white glow of phosphorus and magnesium munitions. It looks beautiful, like a slow-motion firework display, until it touches the ground. It burns through metal. It burns through bone. It sets the ruins of the city on fire, casting dancing, demonic shadows against the hollowed-out concrete skeletons of the buildings. The noise never stops. The screaming, the explosions, the crack of supersonic bullets. It is a sensory overload that drives men to the brink of insanity. When the sun rises again the next morning, the map has barely changed. Maybe one side advanced 50 yards. Maybe the other side retook a single garage complex. But the cost for those 50 yards is staggering. In the headquarters on both sides, the reports come in. 500 dead here. 700 dead there. Hundreds more missing, buried under the rubble of a collapsed high-rise, never to be found. In a single day, a battalion's worth of men is erased. And for what? Bakhmut eventually fell in May of 2023. But the victory was hollow. The Russia forces didn't capture a city, they captured a graveyard. There were no crowds to greet them, no infrastructure to use. Just miles of pulverized concrete and the rotting remains of the fallen. This battle serves as a dark, grim reminder to the 21st century. We like to think that technology has made war cleaner. We look at precision airstrikes and cyber warfare and think we have evolved past the brutality of the trenches. Bakhmut proved us wrong. It showed us that when two modern industrial powers decide to lock horns, when political will overrides the value of human life, the result is exactly the same as it was in 1916. It showed us that the meat grinder is not a relic of the past. It is a dormant beast, waiting for the right moment to wake up and feed. Over 100,000 casualties. That is the estimated human cost of the battle for this one small city. It is a number that is hard to comprehend. But if you look closely at the footage, at the mud, at the ruined schools and the shattered playgrounds, you realize that every single digit in that number was a father, a son, a person who woke up one morning, put on his boots, and walked into the fire, never to walk out. This was the Battle of Bakhmut. A testament to human endurance, and a monument to human destruction. And this, unfortunately, is history happening before our very eyes. The guns in Bakhmut have momentarily fallen silent, but the echoes of this battle will define military doctrine for decades to come. It serves as a grim warning that history is not behind us, it is happening right now. If you appreciate this kind of deep dive historical analysis, where we look past the headlines and into the gritty reality of the ground war, then join our ranks. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We are committed to documenting the most pivotal battles in history, from the ancient world to the modern front lines, and we cannot do it without you. I want to hear from you in the comments. Looking at the tactics used in Bakhmut, do you think the era of large-scale industrial trench warfare is back to stay, or was this a unique anomaly in modern combat? Let's discuss below. I'm Final Chronicle. Thanks for watching. Stay vigilant.